It's an honor and a privilege to introduce our main speaker of the evening, Kim R. Thank you.
I'm alcoholic. My name's Kim. My sobriety date is October 3rd, 1981. I got sober when I was 5. I want to thank Keith and Ron and the meeting in general for asking me to come and share tonight. It's always an honor and a privilege to be able to share my story at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I understand I'm going to be in really good company on the internet with people like Sandy B and, Cliff R and Clancy I and all those other good folks that we've known over the years. And oh yeah, and there's my friend Jane back there. Hi. Jane and I have known each other since I was about 6 years sober, I think. I think it's like 6 years. Anyway, Jane and I went to meetings together at the Valley Club for a long, long time together. And I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, it's really, really a pleasure walking through this journey with you. Anyway, Brian, thanks for coming. Yeah, so Brian did not lie. I've been his sponsor for about 5 years, and I don't get to take credit for anything he's done. All I did was what he asked me to do, and I sponsor a whole bunch of guys, most of whom don't call me, which is really good. And I work with the ones, all those guys have a lot of time sober, like I didn't start sponsoring people until I was probably 20 years sober. And I probably sponsored a few guys before that, but California sponsorship is a little different than Vegas sponsorship. We do things a little differently here, like when I got to Vegas in 1994, I was kind of like, they're not doing it right. So I started going to a meeting where they were doing it right. Anyway, that meeting was my home group for about 13 or 14 years. It was the double-digit meeting. Woo-woo! And, like I said, I started all of a sudden, you get time in this program and one of my friends said, you're going to be my sponsor after John Todman passed away. And he said, because I know you're young and you're not going to die. I'm like, okay. Anyway, I'm super, super grateful to be here, and so much stuff has gone on in my life. I'm going to try to break it up into threes. Threes seem to be a theme in our society for some reason. So I'm going to try to do 15 minutes of what it was like, 15 minutes of what happened, and 15 minutes of what it's like now. And the book tells us that we share in a general way what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, And so I'm going to tell you that I started coming to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 16 years old via another program. And I've been coming here 3/4 of my lifetime, and I don't know how many meetings that is because I've been to a lot, right? I kind of feel like old wino pillhead John. Somebody asked him how long he'd been sober once, just before he passed away. And he said he had Alzheimer's. He said, I don't know, but it's been a long time. I've been coming here for a long time, Brian mentioned the chain of sponsorship. My sponsor is here tonight. My sponsor is Duncan, and he's a little bit ahead of me. And we started spending a lot of time together a couple years back when another friend of ours passed away. And, Duncan, I want you to know I value your friendship very much, and I'm so glad you're here, and I think that the value of having a sponsor is immense in this program. You have to have somebody to talk about your stuff with, whether it's once a week, once a month, once a year, whether you do what it says in the 10th step in the 12 and 12 about doing an annual house cleaning or doing nightly writing. My wife writes every day. I'm kind of lazy. I pray at night. And I go to sleep and I get up in the morning and I drink a lot of coffee because I have to be at work at 7 a.m., But several months ago, I had to do some house cleaning. And, when I need to do that, I know who to go talk to, The value of my program in Alcoholics Anonymous is that I have so many men in my life that I can talk to about different stuff. Starting from the very beginning, I didn't have a sponsor for the first 6 years. I was sober. I was young, busy, having a good time, chasing girls, going to all those dances in the valley. Woo woo. Well, that was kind of like a Trump thing. I'm sorry. You know, and that's what I did, man. I hung out in restaurants until 2 or 3 in the morning. And, you know, and I went to work, and I worked in a treatment program at that time. I've been blessed. I've been working in that business my entire sobriety since I was 18 years old, basically. And, but you know, I spent the first 6 years of my recovery just having a lot of fun, going to meetings and chasing girls at dances and, you know, doing crazy stuff and just being sober. And life was really, really fun in the San Fernando Valley. And some of my friends from there have moved here, which is really weird. You know, when I got here in 1994, I had 13 years of sobriety when I moved here, right? And I had a solid program. You know, there was, I wasn't like thinking about, oh my God, I don't need to go to meetings anymore because I'm in a new place and I got to get settled down and all that stuff. And I'll tell you a couple of stories about that. I've worked with people in the past. I had this one guy several years ago who ended up in a treatment program I was working at, and he's a drunk, and he comes to detox, and he tells me he's been in Vegas like, I don't know, 8 years. And he came here from Florida. He had 13 years of sobriety when he got here. It took him 8 years to get drunk. He didn't go to a meeting when he got here, right? And I'm going to tell you that I was in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous the day after I moved here. I know how important it is to stay connected, right? I've never been disconnected from Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't even know what that would look like for me. I can't even dream of, like, you mean I can't go to meetings anymore? Or, you know, or the thought crosses my mind, like, I don't want to go to meetings. That doesn't make any sense to me, right? And really where that comes from is the training that I've had in Alcoholics Anonymous through 6 different sponsors, right? Thousands of meetings, you know, hearing a bunch of 4th and 5th steps, right? Doing my own step work. And I can't imagine what life would be like without Alcoholics Anonymous in my life, without the 12 steps in my life, without the principles of this program in my life, without the concepts or the traditions, right? One of the things that I think I value the most here is the unity that we experience, right? Like Brian was talking about his home group. I go to that meeting. That's not my home group. My home group is the Stray Dogs Men's Stag of Alcoholics Anonymous. Woof. We meet on Monday night at the Thai Club at 7 o'clock. I meet in downtown Las Vegas in probably one of the worst places you could possibly have a meeting. I love that club, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I love that club. But, you know, the first night we were there 14 or 15 years ago, we had, I think somebody brought like 6 boxes of Little Caesars pizza, and there were so many homeless people in the meeting, I didn't even get a piece. I'm like, good. You know, and that's a solid meeting, you know, and I tell people, if you come to our home group and you can stay sober anywhere, you know, because it's a pretty straightforward men's stag. There's no BS. We love each other. We see each other every week. Some of us talk to each other on a regular basis. 2 of my home group members are at the Recovery House downtown right now doing the panel, right? I asked one of my other guys if he would come, and he said, no, I made a commitment to go over there. And that's what we do, you know. And Alcoholics Anonymous is just a phenomenal place. I can't imagine being anywhere else. Anyway, a little bit about how I got here. See, I'm already off track, but it doesn't matter. So I was born in 1964. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. My parents are British immigrants. My father was going to school at that time, and I was born club-footed and pigeon-toed. And My father said this to me, literally. He told me, he said, when the doctors came out to see him, because back then the men didn't go in the room, like when my son was born, like my wife was holding onto my arms. I thought she was going to tear him out of the sockets. But they didn't do that back then. And he said to my father, he said, Mr. Robinson, there are some problems and we're not quite sure what we're going to do. I'm like, really? I'm off to a good start. And then I found out that I was breached and the cord was wrapped around my neck, and it's 6 a.m. when I come out of the chute. I was, well, you know, I mean, that doesn't make me alcoholic, but it's probably a pretty good shot at it if you ask me, right? I have a lot of reasons to drink, right? And so anyway, I spent the next 11-ish years in and out of surgeries to fix all these problems. And I didn't walk on my own 2 feet until I was about, I don't know, 5 years old, right? I have pictures, family photos of me with casts on my legs, with the bar between my legs, keeping my feet straight because, you know, I'm still young, obviously, and your bones are really flexible. They want to see if my legs were going to straighten out. And I went through all that stuff, you know, the humiliation of wearing those earth shoes back in the 70s. I know some of us might remember those, right? And, you know, I always felt different. And what do we use the word? We use the word unique here, right? And really, like, that uniqueness became terminal in my case, because when I found alcohol and those other outside issues that we don't talk about in AA, I found an excuse to make it okay for the way I was, right? And so my parents, God bless them, they're both gone now, but they made sure somehow or another that they had the ability for me to see all those doctors so I can walk on my own 2 feet, you know? And as you can see, I'm doing that today, you know? So I got to tell you, I'm really, really grateful, and I'm really lucky because I've seen other individuals who are not as fortunate as me, right? And it doesn't look like they're having a very good time sometimes, you know? The other thing was that one of my legs was growing faster than the other. So the last surgery I had, they took the growth plates out of my legs and one of my ankles. And so one of my leg could catch up, right? So now I still have a little bit of a limp. Like, I think my legs are probably a 1/4 of an inch difference in length, but whatever, I'm walking on both my feet. You know, and like I said, none of that stuff makes me an alcoholic. And when my parents split up when I was 9 years old, that doesn't really have anything to do with why I started drinking and using. It could have. I could blame all that stuff on my parents really easily, right? And, you know, I got on the big yellow bus to go to school. I wasn't in Watts, but the San Fernando Valley is probably just as bad, you know. And I was a latch. I remember the term when the term latchkey kid came out. Woo-hoo, that's me. And, you know, I had to get myself to school and get myself back. And my mom and my dad split up. And doesn't matter why they split up, they split up. And my dad went his merry way. And thus starts the next part of my journey as a child. I'm getting shuffled back and forth between my parents' homes, you know. And that took me to Florida for a little while with my dad. And then we came back here, and I came back to LA and moved back in with my mom, you know, and that's when I found out that all of my friends were smoking some of those outside issues and drinking and all that stuff. And of course, I'm like almost 13 years old, and I want to be a part of, I don't want to be left out, right? So I can't tell you, I even remember my first drink or my first fix or whatever it was. I know I had it. I know my last one. I remember my last one like it was yesterday, right? They say that if you don't remember your last drunk, you haven't had it yet, by the way. And so I started that journey. And really, this is how I'm going to really summarize this really quick, because it's that easy to do this. I started drinking and using as much as I could, as often as I could, with whoever I could, whenever I had the opportunity. And there were many, 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 many nights or days when I came home I always had a home to go to. I was really lucky as a young person, and I was just out of my mind, right? Or I'd come home at midnight, 2, 3 in the morning after hitchhiking down Laurel Canyon to get home to the apartment we lived in and pass out. And I passed out, was living in North Hollywood up by the railroad tracks off of Sherman Way at one time, and went to high school, went to junior high school up there, and I was using and drinking with a bunch of people, and I took something, and I don't remember what it was, and I don't remember who gave it to me, and I don't remember what happened after that. That's all there is to it. I woke up the next morning and I still had all my clothes on. Thank God. And but like that's how things went back then. I was not interested in what it was, who was going to give it to me, or where it came from. I just wanted to be able to change the way I felt about myself, because deep down inside, right down in my gut, where that hole is that the wind blows through 24 hours a day, I was trying to close that up, because I'm special and terminal and unique. You don't understand. I've been through all this stuff, and my parents are not together anymore, and this is all their fault, which we know is a bunch of cockamamie stuff. And I ran that stuff out until the wheels fell off, right? Like I was at the caboose. And I used to jump the trains out there, actually. I did that once or twice. And after you land on those rocks, jumping out of one of those box cars at 20 or 30 miles an hour, you only do it once or twice. Believe me. Yeah, it's a good thing I was young. And we used to do really dangerous, crazy stuff. Like we'd all get high, cut school, and then run around in the LA Wash. I don't know why I was doing that, but we would. There was a tunnel we would go through that took us from where I lived up to someplace where we weren't supposed to be during school hours. But I did that kind of stuff on a regular basis, and it wasn't like I was on a dare. I wasn't like being challenged. I wanted to be like everybody else, right? I wanted to fit in, and I was willing to do whatever I needed to do that. And that behavior and that attitude got me into some situations that, unbeknownst to me, I probably should not have been in, with people who were somewhat dangerous. And, I don't know about anybody else, but I was young and I hung around with older people, and there were some other outside issues going around that I probably had no business being around, and because I was always just drinking and, using pills and doing all the stuff. I love the term in the big book about Bob using the goofballs all the time, and I think he was probably talking about phenobarbital. Anyway, that was me, man. Drink, take pills, and just wanted to have a good time, and I would kind of go to school. That part of my life was riddled with, I don't really want to be here. I was bullied a little bit when I was a kid. And I went to 12 different schools in my career, and all that great education, I still couldn't graduate. I don't understand it. I would get kicked out of a junior high school, and then I'd go to another one, and the circumstances weren't good, and I just wanted to leave and go party. I dropped out of school. I literally dropped out of school, I think, 9th grade for the rest of the semester, because I didn't want to be there. And bless my mom, she couldn't do a darn thing about it. She's like, whatever. She might not even remember that. She probably wouldn't remember it. I remember it really well. Like I got kicked out of, was it Madison Junior High School? Madison Junior High. And I ended up going to another junior high, Fulton Junior High School, and halfway through the semester, I'm like, I can't get into graphic art shop so I can huff the glue. I'm out of here. And I did that. And I got kicked out of an elementary school, actually, at one time. And but I went to all these different schools, man, and the whole time I'm just thinking these people don't understand what's going on, and really the bottom line was that it turned out I just didn't want to be there anymore, and I ended up in they call them alternative schools here, the bad kid schools, right? I love the bad kid schools. I went to continuation high school, and it's supposed to be a little easier. You can kind of chill, and I did because I was smoking weed and drinking on campus, but this is towards the end of my career, by the way. I end up at Indian Hills High School up on Las Virgenes Canyon Road, just outside the San Fernando Valley, and I'm in a new school, and I'm a new kid, and I'm being torn away little by little from that life that I was trying to lead, because every time my parents moved me somewhere, it made it more difficult for me to get to where I really wanted to be, right? And you're talking to somebody who got sober really young. So me blaming my parents for moving me from Santa Monica to Agoura, California, that's a bad deal, because now I'm super going to have a super hard time getting to those people. My friends, our friends, right? And those people who, we drank and used with, who we thought were our friends. Anyway, so I get to this new school, and guess who shows up? There's a couple kids there who are trying to get sober in this program, and they're like, hey, come go with me. Okay, I don't have anything else to do. So I start going to these meetings, and so there's a backstory. The backstory is really simple. I was actually at somebody's house partying one night, and somebody came out and said something about, I'm just going to make it simple, about staying sober for 30 days, and they're swinging this thing, we'll just call it a chip, around. And I didn't pay any attention to that. I'm like, really? What's that mean? I have no idea what you're talking about, because I didn't know anything about AA or the 12 steps or anything like that, or recovery, or, I just wanted to party. And so I start going to these meetings, and a few months later, I get a reality check, because one of the kids that I was using with, there was 2 brothers and a sister, Brett, Jesse, and Tammy Howe. Tammy's passed away now, so I can talk about her. Tammy was one of those girls that all the boys chased in school, and she partied just like the rest of us. And the people who were taking me to meetings, somebody else's parents, not my own, were taking me to meetings, knew that family. And the tragedy about that whole story is that Tammy got loaded one night and took her father's .38 Special and went in the garage of their house and shot herself. And she was 17 years old. So we're the same age. And I went to that girl's funeral. And, I didn't really realize it at the time, but that was my first reality check about the deadly nature of the disease that we suffer from, right? And the fatal malady that we have as alcoholics, right? And that goes way beyond the spiritual malady that we suffer, the allergy that we suffer from, the mental obsession that we suffer from. She couldn't take it anymore, and she did something about it. Unfortunately, she completed a suicide, and that left a lasting impression on me. I will never forget that experience as long as I live, right? And I got to tell you that since then, that's happened many, many, many more times, right? And each time that happens, it's another tragedy. But each time something like that happens for me, I have to realize that there's something that was going on in that person's life that was obviously so great that they couldn't bear it anymore for some reason, And then my immediate next thought is, but for the grace of God, there go I, right? I start going to these meetings, and I start getting accustomed to what's going on there. And check this out. I go to a meeting, and there's 100 young people in that room. It's a church out in Beverly Hills. And we went to the meeting. We talked about a bunch of stuff, and they talked about the steps. Kids talked about staying sober. And I left, and they said, hey, come back next week. No one's ever told me to come back anywhere, And So I continued to go to those meetings, and I stuck around those meetings even through my introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous for a few years. And I became a founding member of one of the groups in California, up in Ventura County. And in the meantime, I want you to know that I changed my sobriety date like 5 times. Right? My sobriety date's October 3rd, 1981, like I shared in the beginning of my talk. And, so that's not my first sobriety date, but hopefully it'll be my last, right? So I graduated to AA. I went to my first meeting in, where was it? Oh yeah, the Ohio Street meeting in LA, right behind the Federal Building on Wilshire Boulevard over on Franklin Avenue, Ohio and Franklin or whatever. And like, I'm definitely the youngest person there because I'm like 18. And they had food there. I thought that was really cool. Like tonight, thank you, by the way. I'm super happy to come and have an eating meeting. I think that's awesome, man. And it was great too. Thank you very much for all the people who cooked tonight. I really appreciate you. I want you to know my tummy thanks you. So they had food there, and they didn't tell me not to come back. I couldn't believe, they didn't tell me not to come back. And the truth of the matter is that when I got to that meeting, I was not doing very well. I was about a year sober, and I was having some conflicts in my life at that time, but that meeting saved me. It did. And I don't even know who was there. To tell you the truth, Clancy could have been there and I wouldn't have known it, right? And so I kept going back to that meeting, and I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've met many, many, many people who I call friends today, including Jane. And, this journey is just incredible, man. And like I said, I didn't have a sponsor until I was about 6 years sober, but I did manage to do the 12 steps during that time because there are all kinds of people around who are willing to help, right? And I did my first 4-step and 5th step with a guy named Don M. He's still alive. I found that out about 6 years ago. I was at another meeting speaking, and I mentioned him, and somebody got him on the phone after the meeting. Jane knows who I'm talking about. And he said, "Don't worry, your secrets are okay with me." Good. I did that 4th and 5th step on the 405 freeway on a drive between the Valley and Santa Monica. And I did 6 and 7, and I started writing stuff down because that's what you're supposed to do. You don't just get to pray it all away. You need to know what you're praying about, right? And make a list of all the things that you are objectionable about yourself to you, right? Or people, places, and things and situations, and everything from kicking the cat to I don't like the way I look at my hair in the morning. And I think I made columns on that college ruled piece of paper, which has 26 lines, by the way, college ruled paper, 26 lines. I had 3 or 4 columns. It's amazing that I even know that today. My brain's a little fried. And by the time I got to the 7th step, God had removed most of those. I got to tell you, there are still some that I like, just like everybody else, And the out in that is that it says we work on those for the rest of our lives, right? We will spend the rest of our lives working on our character defects and our shortcomings, right? And I still have some, believe me. They just don't glare as much as they used to, thank God. I've done the steps a bunch of times, and I was really lucky with 8 and 9 because how much damage can a 17-year-old kid do? I stole some drugs out of my mom's closet. How are you supposed to apologize for that? It's true, I did. And about 1,000 Valium, I think it was. Anyway, and then, you're participating in the theft of somebody else's possessions. That kind of a situation, you might want to reconsider who's going to get hurt if you go talk about that. But I've continued to do those amends over the years, trying to make that right, not behaving like that, right? I was in a relationship when I moved to Vegas. And my second sponsor and I had a conversation after I left that relationship. It's just before I met Donna. And he said, I did try to go make amends with her. I tried to give her some stuff that I owed her, right? Some money that I owed her because I felt that it was right. And she threw it back in my face. And that was, that's her problem, not mine. And at that moment, right, I knew that I was done, just like the guy going into the office and the guy throwing him out. You're an SOB, get out of here, right? And so Ted S., my sponsor, said, don't call her, don't go to her house, don't write her a letter, don't try to talk to her, blah, 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 blah. Leave her alone. You're both going to be better off. And he was right, And a couple months later, I met Donna. And that's a whole nother story. I probably don't have time for that. It's already, I think I have 14 minutes left. That's what the clock is ticking. Now I know what that's for. So, yeah, I moved here and Ted became my sponsor. And I get here and I have 13 years of sobriety and I'm still doing the steps and I'm young and I'm gung-ho for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm just trying to find my way here. By the way, I don't know anybody else knows about this, but this town is really brutal to get to know when you're brand new here, right? I struggled a little bit, but the struggle that we go through in our lives, if you are a member of this program, you get to share that struggle with other people. And they're going to say things to you like, just come back to the next meeting. And they're going to say things to you like, just trust God. And they're going to say things to you like, go home and pray about it. They're going to say things to you like, go find a newcomer. And all of those things are solid suggestions, and every single one of them have worked every single time in my life, right? So, I continue to do the step work that I'm supposed to do, right? And I do the best I can to share that with other people. And what it's like now, I've got about 12 minutes. What it's like now is my life is phenomenal. I've been practicing as a clinician in this town for 30 years, and I hung up my license a couple months ago. I'm not doing clinical work anymore. I was in that business for a long time, and I finally realized that I didn't want to do that anymore. And I made a lateral move, and now I chase down homeless people in Henderson every day for a living. It's the easiest job I've ever had. And, I tell everybody that because it is, and I work with a bunch of really nice people, and I get to drive around the city all day and try to help people get off the street. And, if any of you have ever been homeless, I was homeless once for 3 weeks, and my friend Shawnee saved me. She put me on her couch until the place I was going to move into was ready. And that was a God shot because I needed to be in her house at that time. And she would tell you that. So I get to chase people. I get to chase homeless people all over the city and try to help them get into shelter, right? And I was going to mention, especially now because we're having this weird heat wave. It's March. It's supposed to be 60 degrees and the wind's supposed to be blowing. I'm sitting in front of my house. It's 97 degrees. My dog didn't even want to go outside. The pavement's too hot. And she went out for about 5 minutes, and then I see her starting to do this, and she runs back in the house. And, I just have a phenomenal life today. I don't try this at home. I'm a professional. I met Donna. She had 60 days of sobriety. I had 17 years. And I say this when she's here, too. And when she's here, I start crying, but I'm not going to do that now. She is one of my rocks, man. She is the light of my life. I don't know what I would do without her. And she and I have spent the last 27 years walking this journey together with all our friends, pardon me. I can't even begin to tell you how good that feels. Like like my friends Brian and Shannon are going to experience what we've experienced. I know you are. And it's just amazing, man. It's amazing, and like I'm going to talk about something that one of my friends says. I'm going to steal somebody's line and be a parrot, because that's what we do here, right? We just do what everybody else does. It seems to work really well, right? Like I don't ever want to go back there where I came from, and if you have it there where you came from, and you can come here and you never have to go back there. That's Kane C., one of the guys in my home group. I love that line. And I have it there that I never want to go back to, And Donna and I just have this incredible journey, right? And I asked her to marry me, and she said, I want to marry you, but I'm going to finish my step work first, right? Okay. I went to my sponsor, Ted, and I said, this is kind of weird. I'm like sober a long time, but she and I are the same age. I finally found someone my own age to play with and all that stuff. And because I was always playing with people I wasn't supposed to play with, And he's like, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you that Ted had like 20 years and Fran had like a year. So he's like, what are you expecting? And I'm like, I guess nothing. But there was a point where I remember doing this. If you're ever interested in doing this, a little pro tip: make a list. What do you want out of your next relationship? She is it. I found everything I could ever possibly want. And when I asked her to marry me, I said, I'm not doing this again. Which means one of us is going to die before this is over, and this life that we lead in Alcoholics Anonymous is just phenomenal, right? I think one of the biggest pleasures I get is watching people. I'm sitting across the table. I think this is when I was smoking too, so we're talking 10 years ago. I stopped smoking 10 years ago. I used to sit across the table, drink coffee, smoke cigarettes, read the big book, watch the light go on in somebody's eyes, man. It's like, oh my God, you're right. And I never said anything about I'm not right. I don't know what you're talking about. A couple of those guys are still sober. One of the guys that was in my detox program, he was in a bad way. He was in the Air Force. He got court-martialed. He had 3 DUIs all at the same time. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind me talking about this. He's still alive, so I won't say his name. He stalked me to my home group. He's like, he's not supposed to be doing that, but I keep my mouth shut because that's what we're supposed to do. That guy's got 20 years of sobriety. I didn't have anything I sponsored him for a while. He's got 20 years of sobriety. That just doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by accident. On the way over here, I was thinking about our friend Ziggy from the Valley Club, right? And Ziggy used to say, you never have to drink again if you don't want to, and even if you want to, right? I truly believe that I will probably never drink a drop of alcohol for the rest of my life. Right? I don't have any desire to drink. I believe that the program came true for me. That promise came true. The obsession was removed. It says that. Kind of like around step 9. I was hoping I was pointing at the right banner. Right? When those promises start to come true, the obsession is gone. Right? I don't have any desire to use alcohol whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it kind of repulses me. Like, I don't like the smell of booze, and I feel the same way about the other substance that I stopped using 10 years ago. That was probably one of the hardest things I had ever done, right? I haven't had a cigarette since May of 2016, right? Donna and I smoked together, and we stopped together. We had a little suicide death pact about smoking, like if one of us does, the other one will. But we worked a program to do that. I literally went to a smoking cessation program because the book that we read says go seek outside help if you need it, right? So I wasn't doing like, it's not like a faux pas, or I wasn't breaking any social mores going outside of AA to get help. I needed to, because I was super, super, super sick when it came to that, you know, and that's just one of the many miracles that's happened in my life. Like that obsession is gone, and like I don't have to go back to that, you know. And anyway, Alcoholics Anonymous means my life, and I wouldn't trade this for the world. You know, I was with a bunch of friends on Saturday night at a meeting out in Beatty, and unfortunately I was not able to participate in the rest of the event, but I've been going to this event for 20 years, you know, and what was most important about that was being able to go see people that I love and care about, right? And that we share our recovery with, you know. And I really believe today, like I've kind of hinted, like some people have said that Alcoholics Anonymous might be the only way to get sober. We all know that that's not true, right? So there's many different ways for us to stop doing this behavior that's caused us so many problems, right? But for this alcoholic, this is the best way, right? I can't imagine trying to do this any other way, right? I think my mom a long time ago, she was doing like jazzercise, and I think she was going to the Life Spring program and all this stuff. Jane's laughing back there because she knows what I'm talking about. And like when I found the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I really realized that I did not need to be anywhere else and that I was home. Thank you for letting me share.